Good morning, Layla.
Hi, Brian.
Happy podcast day.
Happy podcasting.
I'm excited to talk to you today.
Yeah,
We have like a loose episode. We have a bunch of subjects that kind of loosely tie together.
yeah. No, you texted me
hmm
and you expressed some things to me, and I was like, "What?" And you're like, "Let's save it for the pod." So I'm excited. I have lots of questions.
Okay. Why don't you start? What's your first question about the text I've sent you over the past week?
Okay, well, first and foremost, you're not polyamorous, correct?
Correct.
But you have a new girlfriend?
No, no, no. We don't.
Oh, okay. What's going on?
Someone asked to be our girlfriend.
Wait, really?
hmm
Is it someone you've spent a significant amount of time with?
I wouldn't even say significant, but we've spent enough time with this person. Like we've hung out a few times. We've known them for a year. And have I talked about this on the podcast, the Vegas trip where my wife gave me a pass?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, same person, and they
Oh,
it escalated where they kind of said, "Hey, I would love to be your girlfriend, not my girlfriend, but like
you
the
and your wife.
marriage's girlfriend." Yeah,
What would that even look like?
no idea. That's the thing. So like, it was thrown out there, and then there was no context on what that even means. And I think that they've never done it before and we've never done it before. It wasn't a goal that we had. Um, I don't know, but like when you get a girlfriend or your boyfriend, like there's a lot of it's not just the good stuff, it's like the emotional support stuff. So it was unclear. I'm curious for you if someone said they wanted to be you and your partner's girlfriend, what
Mm.
would you think it meant?
Well, I think that what's so wonderful about lifestyle is that we're still unlearning monogamy, right? So when we hear girlfriend, we think of that typical box of needing to provide emotional support, needing to do check ins, date nights, a couple times a week. Like we have this box that we've created, but we have an opportunity to create our own type of dynamic. So if you had asked me a couple years ago, I would have had a very different opinion of what that might have meant than now. So if someone were to be like, "Oh, I want to be you and your husband's girlfriend," I would have a lot of questions, and I guess I would ask them what their intentions are with that. I would talk to my husband about it, and then we'd all come together and see how we can kind of create whatever that dynamic may look like. Does that make sense?
It's, it does make sense to me. You said something interesting that a few years ago you'd look at it differently.
Mhm.
So let's backtrack a few years. What would you have looked at it like back then?
Back then, I would have imagined that me and the girl would be texting separately, and my husband and the girl would be texting separately, and then maybe we have a group chat, and maybe, you know, my husband and I would go on dates with her a couple times a month, and, like checking in with her throughout the week.
hmm
Um, providing that type of emotional support that maybe we didn't necessarily have the time to do properly. And that would have confused me, that would have made me stressed out. And I either would have done it and failed, or I wouldn't have even attempted it.
Okay, so that was 2 years. So then what would be those all sound like healthy activities though. But so
Yeah.
what would be different today?
Well, I mean, maybe I answered that incorrectly because I mean,
It's hard to step back. It's hard to undo all the work you've done already and
I
answer
know
the
it
question
is.
honestly.
I'm like unlearning non-monogamy and to answer this question.
Like in this moment, be toxic. What is your no, I am
Okay,
curious
you know
like
what? No, no, no. Let me go back. I guess years ago, I would have imagined that it would have been texting throughout the day, phone call every day, check ins every day, a date once or
ah
twice a week, right? So maybe that's what I would have imagined that it looked like. And now, today, I would imagine that maybe it would look like the first thing I said. Uh, but again, I don't really know. Like, like I've said before on previous episodes, we have comment partners, but we don't call them our boyfriends or our girlfriends. We call them comment partners.
com are you saying the word comet like a space comet or
Yes. Yes, like
okay.
it comes in, it burns bright, and then it just like shoots on over,
Got it.
and then like we'll see you when you see ya, and when we do, it's like you never left.
Did you make that up or did you read that somewhere?
No, no, it's a term in polyamory.
Got it. Okay. So you have
Hmm.
comet partners.
Hmm.
I need to learn if we're going to keep doing this podcast. I apparently need to learn more about poly.
Probably.
I have a love hate relationship with poly people though, so I'm not.
Why? What's your deal?
What's my deal?
Yeah, you have a love-hate relationship with poly people.
Oh God, man, I went on a rant last week with my coach about poly people, and I need to decide. Man, do I really want to say that? Because I don't want to trigger
Yes.
anybody.
Trigger.
I just okay. So now I got to talk about the app a little bit, right? So
Hmm.
you know, Candid's transitioning this summer, and
Yes.
the branding is new. The features have been simplified. There's stuff we built in that people had wanted for a long time that we threw in. And so relaunching this app in December, it's going to be a blast, right? And you saw some of the stuff and you're like, this is the most excited I've ever been about
Yep.
this project, right? But also in that, I had to rip out a bunch of features I put in for poly people. And poly is so complicated that it's complicated to put it in a product. And it was adding layers of complexity to the product too. And so, for example, um, I don't even know if this will be exciting for people, but like a poly person would think about like, okay, wait, how do I want to say this? We can cut this out too and cut it down. But, in the E&M space, most people are just trying to have fun. They like have full lives and kids and stable partnership most likely, and they're just trying to have a good time. They're not really trying to love other people or invite love into their relationship. And I think the bulk of the E&M space are those types of people. Like you just referred to the term comet partners. I think these are like comet E&M people where most of their behavior is monogamous, and then occasionally a few times a year they do this non-monogamous thing,
Hmm.
but their identity isn't wrapped up in like trying to love other people. I think that the polyamory space, there's two things. One, they operate more like single people trying to find partners than they do those like non-monogamous couples trying to find occasional fun.
Mm.
Um, they're looking for love, and like that is hard. Finding love's hard on an app if you're single, and then it's as equally hard with poly. So then the technological solutions for that are challenging. The
I just
other
want to make a point real quick is that,
oh
like, for example, I'm polyamorous, but I'm not searching for love. I'm not on apps. I'm not searching. I don't feel the need to have, like, I don't need somebody else in my life. My husband provides me so much love. If a situation occurs, we don't have that red tape that perhaps E&M people have. So I want to be clear that if someone's polyamorous, it doesn't mean that they're like out searching, where's my next love? I need more love. I need more love. So just wanted to throw that in there.
you're right. You're right. And I'm not trying to bucket all polyamorous people in the same bucket because I do
Okay.
think polyamorous people are different.
Mm.
And there's some that are looking for love. And that's the next point I was getting to. There is like a branch of polyamorous people that look down on the physical swinger nature of a lot of lifestyle people
Yeah.
and make it wrong, and they make it seem like we are the less evolved versions of them, and like
Hmm.
we just haven't gotten to the point that we can let love in. I think that most people don't aren't looking for love, or if it can't, like we weren't looking for a girlfriend. This person asked, and now we're having a conversation about what that might look like, but
Mm.
we weren't looking for it and we didn't consider ourselves poly. And I think there's more people like that kind of like fall into it. um but I do think that like and I'm trying not to label all poly people about this, and I didn't even want to talk about this on the call because it's going to trigger some people. But look, the election just happened, and part of what came after the election when Trump won was the left, like the progressives, looking at, man, were we taken over? Like, did we go too far with the Me Too movement? Did we become too liberal? And it was triggering the middle. And I think in the E&M space, there is some level of that where like there, and I've heard it from users. It's like, oh, you LA people are all about physical stuff, but us San Francisco Bay Area people, we're about the love.
Mm.
And it's like we're better than and where it's been coming up recently is like we're launching the app, and so we've been making new content, and we've been doing this content where we just virtually ask people questions and just they answer those questions, like how would you feel if your girlfriend was in love with another girl, versus if she was in love with another guy. And we just let people answer the questions as they lie based on wherever they are with their E&M journey. And then I've been sending those questions out to the videos out to people to get kind of early feedback on like how does this content land with you. And the book, like the poly people are cringing at it as much as like the Catholic people. Because to the Catholic people, it's like, y'all need Jesus. And to the poly people, it's like, ill, cringe, unhealthy attachment style. You know what I'm saying? So it's like the same level of judgment from both sides. And I'm frustrated. So my message to poly people is like, stop judging other E&M people. Like there's not enough of us for you to judge them and think, see, now I'm venting.
Okay, well, do you think it goes the other way too? Like, do you think that ENM people judge polyamorous people?
I think some of them do, but I think E&M people don't care as much. I don't, and I could be wrong. I'm curious what you think about this, but there are like you're poly and I hang out with you just the same.
Mm,
And then I don't judge you for wanting to love anybody. Like that's your thing. That just might not be my thing.
mm,
I think there's this openness that E&M people have in general. Because you're even the words like open relationships, right? So people with open relationships tend to have open mindedness. Once you go poly and you can think that's the right way, there's a closed mindedness to that can come in. But I guess if I like anyone could be closed minded and think their way is the way.
mm. Right.
So sure. I mean, there could be E&M people that think that as soon as you start trying to love other people or date separately, that doesn't work. Yeah,
Mm.
yeah. What do you think?
Well, I want to know, my curiosity is killing me, and I have to know, what did you and your wife talk about when this woman presented this to you guys?
God, I went on such a tangent. You're right. Thanks for bringing me back to the.
I got you. No, no, no. And the tangent is important, and I'm asking because I want to bring it back. So like I want to hear.
There's a couple things that came up. One thing that came up is that this person, she usually will message me and not me and my partner. And she's not sending nudes or anything like that. She's just like, hey, I'm at a wedding in Mexico. Look at my outfit. Like, wish y'all were here. But for some reason, she's texting me and not both of us.
Mm,
And it's interesting because you said that's kind of what you would expect. Like they would have different text different people, but I don't think she's texting her as much. And so part of what we had to talk about was like, who is she talking to the most? And is that because she's more interested in one or the other? Or is that because of my wife's text patterns? I don't know. So that's one thing we talked about. But the other thing that really came up for us is the temporary nature of the scenario she was presenting. So she wants to date eventually and find a partner. And in the meantime, it would be fun for her. Like she's like, hey, if I could, I'd love to date a couple, and like you guys are the couple that I'd love to date. But there's also like an expiration date on that partnership, which is interesting. Um,
mm,
and so we were thinking like, what might that look like? And we definitely don't want to. And this is going to sound poly, but like we don't want to invest emotionally just for her to meet a guy in January and be like, okay, I'm going to go be monogamous with this person.
mm,
So there was like a hesitation to invest in the effort of like, this person doesn't even live, this full transparency, they don't even live in LA. So like we'd have to go to the Bay and carve out half a day that we would spend with family and friends to hang out with this person. So if we're making that commitment, we don't want it to just end as abruptly. I want
mm.
to pause for a second because that led into some other stuff that I do want to open up about. Um, what do you think about that part thus far?
I mean, I think it's interesting. I completely understand not wanting to emotionally invest in somebody that does have an expiration date where they're like, we're going to date and have emotions and feelings. And then as soon as I find somebody else, it's done. What if she finds somebody else that's okay with this? Or what if, I don't know. I mean, that would also make me feel a little uncomfortable because you're expressing that she's never done something like this before, correct?
She's never dated a couple before, correct?
Okay, so it sounds like she's already created these guidelines and these boundaries and these agreements, which I love, but I would be interested to see if those shift over time
Mm.
as as feelings come up and as feelings occur. Regarding like would she have more feelings for me versus my wife or vice versa? That's another concept that I always thought was really interesting when people date couples. I've never dated a couple, And my husband and I have never dated somebody together either. Um,
Hmm.
and I don't know if maybe that's why, um, because I feel like it's inevitable that that person's gonna connect with someone more than the other. You know, like I love both of my parents immensely, but I'm closer to my mom than I am with my dad, and that doesn't mean that I love my dad any less. We're just closer, you know. And so I would imagine that that might be more difficult in a relationship. So I don't know. I just don't have the experience with it, nor do I think I would want that.
Interesting. So you wouldn't be open to this at all?
Not that I wouldn't be open to it, but I think because I like more masculine presenting women and my husband, you know, is more attracted to more feminine presenting women, I just can't imagine us and you know, my husband's straight too. So we wouldn't date a guy together, maybe a girl, but we wouldn't really be attracted to the same girl. So I just don't think it
Wow.
would be possible for us.
That is a good point. It is hard to find someone who matches both
Yeah, because if
preferences.
someone's gonna have, you know, a deep desire for me, my husband and I are very different, right? So I can't imagine if someone's like, oh my gosh, I'm super into Layla because she's loud and bubbly and enthusiastic, and then my husband's like really chill, and it's just different. I don't know.
Right. So if the person's like, I like chill people, they're gonna get one chill, one not chill. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
hmm hmm So you're look, I think that you're pointing at something that we ended up in too. It was like the their underlying all of this was like a pattern of behavior that we've seen from girls in the space.
Mm.
Oh man, this is gonna be a landmine. I'm gonna get texts about. Listen, people, I say stuff on this podcast, and then some of y'all text me and have issues with what these are just my. I'm not right.
No, you
I'm
guys,
not putting this
he
on a
thinks.
placard.
Oh yeah, no, he thinks he's right. You guys just let him have it.
I am in my journey, and I change my opinion all the time, Layla. Like I go through stuff and I listen to feedback and I take it in. But some of y'all, all right. So look, I'm not attacking single women here. I'm not. Love y'all. Want y'all in the space. Do. However, we have noticed something, and when I say this, I'm really curious to see your reaction, Layla. That there are a lot of single women that are in the space and they come to parties and they hang out and they have a blast, whatever, right? Show up, play with your husband, play with the single guys. Then once they get into a relationship, they are all of a sudden monogamous. And then they don't bring that guy around. So you never get to play with that guy. And then when the relationship doesn't work out, they like end up back in the space again and they're having fun again until they meet the next guy and then they become monogamous again. And that's been our is that landing?
Yeah,
Have you seen that pattern
yeah. No,
in
I
some people?
have, and I don't think that there's necessarily anything wrong with that. You know, like they're trying to find a life partner, and if they're trying to stay within this E&M bubble and our friend group, which may be big, but like if you're, you know, like not him, not him, not him, not him, then you have to kind of search outside of that, and you need to have a bigger pond. You know, so I've also seen times where those single women are monogamous with someone and then they slowly introduce them to the lifestyle. So I've seen it both ways.
Right. I think we've seen more of like the woman leaves and
Hmm.
comes back than like they try to integrate.
No, that's true.
Which is interesting because for the guys, we often see the opposite. More often with the single guys, they meet a partner, they actually try to integrate them more often than not. It's more rare that a guy meets someone and starts dating someone and then all of a sudden they bounce because they became monogamous with that person. And
I
so not making
wonder,
huh?
sorry, I wonder if that's because maybe, no, we're probably gonna have to cut this because I'm not sure I even truly believe this, but like I wonder if women are more secure in themselves and that's why they're able to possibly integrate with their boyfriend who's already been lifestyle more so than like the man. I feel like maybe men would feel more uncomfortable going into a room where their girlfriend has had sex with multiple people in there. I don't know. So I'm not even sure if I agree with what I said. I'm just thinking out loud. So,
Yeah, these aren't. We're just talking through this, but like, and this one, this is also where we're at in the conversation with it. It's like the now. Let me go back to this potential girlfriend, right? Our experience of her has been over the past year that she's been hanging out with us has been like she'll plan a trip to LA, and 3 weeks go by, she shows up, and in those 3 weeks she started dating someone. So now the fun we were gonna have we can't have because she's trying to like not do anything, right? Turns
mm,
out that guy was doing stuff anyway. So she was like, oh, that was stupid. And then the pattern repeated again. Again, we are going to hang
mm,
out, but then she met a guy. And so I think that it would feel there's a pattern there. And we've seen it with her, we've seen it with other people, usually with women. It would feel better to us if there was like a plan of attack. If she was like, my goal is to find a person that is open, and open to this space. And I know that that's going to take some time. But when they are around to it and like we want to play with a couple, then you guys can be the first couple and we can
mm,
build a relationship there with this person and you make him feel comfortable with the space. I feel like if there was like a fuller arc of how this might progress, we might feel more open to it. Versus
mm.
like you're just gonna use us in the meantime, but then you'll cut us off the minute you're into the next guy or the next guy or the next guy. And we just don't have time to follow you down that roller coaster. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I think we need to sit down and have a conversation about the overall like bundle of how this might turn out.
Hmm.
Yeah. Basically, I wish there was a checklist of like if you're thinking about letting a girlfriend in or a partner, let me remove the gender from it. If you're thinking about letting a partner into a relationship on a consistent basis, these are the sorts of conversations you should have
Hmm.
and what it might look like. And I think that there's not a go-to list, and maybe there is, and I don't know about it because I'm like I'm not poly, and now I'm faced with the poly thing, and I don't have any research, but to back me up or support me. But if I was in this situation, I'm curious what the audience will say too, and if they have resources we don't know about, because we'd be happy to share those with people. But let's say you were in a relationship and you're thinking about letting someone in. What are the sorts of questions and conversations you're having? Because I think in the course of this conversation right now, Layla, I'm bringing up stuff that we're kind of stumbling with and working through, right? So, and this is a good point. Like, she is actually down to get on a FaceTime and talk through this with us. But even in that, I haven't scheduled it because I don't know what to talk about when we get on the call. Um, and there is like you said comet. What did you say again? What's the word?
It's comet partner, also referred to as satellite partners.
So, is there a guide somewhere on how to effectively navigate a satellite? Really? Because you know what I know about comets? Sometimes they hit Earth and like kill the dinosaurs. And so even that, I hear that also in it. It's like, yeah, and it's beautiful, and like it creates this like long tail, and it's great. Yeah, when it's fucking far away, but when it comes too close, it's terrifying. So I want a guide.
That's actually such a good analogy. Okay, so I use ChatGPT for literally everything. So I imagine if you asked ChatGPT what a healthy comet partner may look like, or you could literally explain to ChatGPT exactly what's going on, and it'll give you an entire list based off of the interweb of like how to navigate this, what questions to ask. Like I may be polyamorous, but I haven't experienced this before. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from some of our listeners about this because I think that a lot of people can relate to it. And we know plenty of people that have dated couples, and sometimes it's great, but I haven't really seen it last in our particular group, right?
Right. I almost think it's built not to last. Like I could be wrong. Like what's that book where the guy something in his Wonder Woman?
You asking me
I
about
don't know.
books? Know
It
your
was also
audience, bro.
a movie. Layla, it was also a
Oh, okay. Well,
movie.
then say more.
It was basically about the guy who created Wonder Woman, the comic book, and how he was in a polyamorous relationship in his life.
Oh no, I don't know.
You didn't know this? Yeah.
No.
I'll find. For some reason, I'm thinking Royal Tenenbaum, but like that's a completely different book. Like not or situate. That is not the right word. Um, but like there probably are examples of it lasting longer. Just people are so cagey about this lifestyle because of judgment that you don't have great examples to look to, right?
Mm,
It's kind of how like most examples of masculinity can seem toxic
mm,
because they're the ones getting all the like the press and the views because it's inspirational for some, triggering for others, and it's the healthy depictions of masculinity that you don't see. It's not that they're not out there; the algorithm's just not picking them up. And so I think
mm,
similarly, there's probably healthy poly relationships. They're just not in your face. It's like people want to hear that it's going to fail. They want to hear the comet's going to hit Earth.
right.
You know, um, so
What
I think it
questions would
can
you like?
work.
Oh, sorry. Like, what questions would you like to ask this woman? Like, and even if it's not healthy, even if it's not textbook, like in all transparency and all honesty, what do you want to ask her? Or perhaps I'll ask it a different way. What do you want out of this?
That's such a good question, Layla. I don't know if I want it at all.
Mm,
Well, one, I don't want it to fuck up what's already going well. And my like, we took a break this summer, reset our agreement. We're rolling really well right now for the most part, and like, I don't really want to, you know, throw a comment at it. Um, I get to be clear on what I'm getting out of this though, and like, what is it? An ego boost I'm getting? Is it like,
mm,
um, is it just for fun? Is it um and I think my wife and I do get to sit down and consider, like, this isn't the first time someone's kind of floated that at us, but it's the closest we've gotten to considering it. And what is it about this person that makes my partner feel safer than all the others?
mm,
There's a stability they bring, there's a professionality that they bring to it. Um, there's something about what she could bring that I think would be beneficial to the relationship. And I think that is something we get to sit down and be like, we are getting something from this, and what is that? And we're also providing something in return. I think that's part of it. But I think more than anything, I want to know that she's not just gonna like ghost us in 2 months.
mm-hmm.
So even if that is like she meets a person, which I want for her. Here's the thing: like I don't want to hold her back at all. I want her to have her person. Dating us might help get her to a better person for her too. And I want to. I just want to feel like at some level we'll be involved in their life, even as that person comes in. It was. Now let me ask you this. I don't know if this is easier, but as a man, if I came in and I met you, Layla, and um, we started dating, and you're like, "Hey, by the way, I'm dating this couple right now, and I'm okay with that ending at some point or evolving, but I definitely want you to have a relationship with them too." Do you think that might sound easier than like, "Hey, I go to sex parties on the weekend, and I've like, you know, like, does that seem more palatable?
God.
This is also a place for audience participation. Like, is if someone would it like, hey, you meet someone and you realize they're dating a partner, like a couple. Is that easier to stomach and work your way around than like, hey, they go to sex parties on the weekends and you'd have no idea what they're doing?
Yeah, and I mean, it also depends on. Mm, I think it also depends on, let's just use like a woman, for example. If she's talking to this new guy and she's like, I'm dating this couple, or I go to sex parties, I think it depends on like his level of confidence, his level of, I don't know. I just feel like there's so many things that depend because I feel like both are shocking, right? Like both in the monogamous world is shocking and would probably make them reconsider probably dating that person, right? Like I think that that really reduces the size of your pond, which is why so many people will leave the scene when they're dating so they don't have to disclose that because again, in ethical non-monogamy, we're being honest and open and transparent, right? And so I don't know. I don't know which would be more shocking. I'd be curious to know too.
As a guy, my gut, and I'm trying to do what you just did. I'm trying to go back to the version of me like 5 years ago.
It's hard.
It is hard. I think I'd feel more comfortable with you dating a couple because I only have to think about two people.
So you're comparing yourself to two people as opposed to comparing yourself to like a room full of people.
No, not even with comparison. I think it's like a jealousy thing, right? Like I don't really have to I have to think about the emotions and the feelings you have towards these two people in your life versus every person that you probably run into at these parties that might want to be with you. So
Hmm.
I think it might be more control or I would feel more safe, but I don't think it's comparison. I think it's what is it? What is underlying? See, now I'm trying to coach myself like in my head. What is underlying that? What would make me, man? What would make me more comfortable with? Um, man, I do this all day, and like I'm doing it on the camera right now. But it would be easier for me to wrap my head around. Okay, I think it's two things. One, it's I'd be more comfortable because I'm like, man, if I can just get to know these two people, that's all I kind of have to worry about. And if I feel safe with these two people, I'll probably feel safe about the situation. There's also some part of me that's like, maybe I will want that in the future. And so if she's open to doing this for them, maybe one day we can do the same in our relationship.
Hmm.
And that might feel more relatable to me coming into this than like I, you know, play parties and orgies because I may have zero concept of that. And that's an entirely different emotional mind fuck, you know?
Sure, but there's also such a large group of people that are that body count is important, right? And so when they hear sex party where maybe you're having sex with 6, 10, 20 people, that might be way more triggering for them because it's more bodies,
R-
right?
yes.
So I
Yeah.
would imagine that that might be more difficult. And I guess it just really depends on what holds more value to that other person. Like, is there more value to them with like emotion, or is there more value to them in sexual connection, right? And if sexual connection's more valuable to them, then maybe the party would be more uncomfortable. And if it's, intimate connection and emotional and romantic, that might be more triggering. So I think it also depends on the individual.
What do you think about the term body count? You just said it.
Oh God, I fucking hate that shit.
Why do we use it? I try not to say it because body count's like John Wick has a body count in the movie. Like how many people did they kill in the making of this film, you know?
Hmm.
Wh- I don't know how it ended up in this space and you seem to hate it, but you just used it.
Well, I used it because I feel like it's something that is said in a particular group of people where it is a particular group of people where that is important to them. But to me, it doesn't fucking matter at all. Literally, it's the same equivalent of someone being like, "Yeah, like how many Big Macs have you had in your life?" And they're like, "What?
you would
What?"
you would
I
say
would
the
say Big Macs.
McDonald's analogy.
I know I really want their breakfast right now.
You know, this is an aside, but I actually went, my wife had a friend over and I was like looking at their phone and they organize their phone by color just like I do. And so I was like, yeah, like if you wanna, and my wife was like, why is that more effective? And I was using her friend's phone. I was like, yeah, because if I want to go to YouTube, I just hit red, swipe, look, YouTube's right there. I was like, also, I just noticed, why does your friend have the McDonald's app on their phone? I didn't even know McDonald's had an app. And what what does the McDonald's app do?
Yeah, no, the McDonald's app just basically keeps score of your body count of Big Macs, and then they use that body count to give you more Big Mac bodies to add to your
Yeah,
stomach.
yeah.
But like, does that
That's
bother
so
you as much as
funny.
it bothers me when somebody says body count?
The context that I know body count in is like I said, like murder. So yeah, it's a weird I think it's a weird statement to use, but but I tend to hear it in a more positive light than I do in a negative light actually. Like people tend to be more proud of their body count in this space. Like I
Oh,
saw on
like
Instagram.
if it's a lot, you mean? or if it's
Yeah,
low.
like I saw an Instagram post the other day. It was some girl on OnlyFans, and she was saying like, before she became a creator, her body count was 5. Since she became a creator, and this was interesting. She actually split the body count between men and women, and it was
Mm,
like since becoming a creator, it was like 9 men and like 60 something women or something like
mm.
that. And she was really proud of her body count and her exploration. So I think that once you get into the space, like yeah, people are like, hey, it doesn't matter because like what really is the difference between having sex once a day for a year with one guy versus having sex once a day for a year with like 30 different people. Like you're still
Same.
having sex every day.
Right. Right. Like I told you, like the first guy I dated that I lost my virginity to was a black guy, and I'm from the South, and a part of an area that didn't love that. And there were a lot of awful things that were said to me, or rumors that my vagina was loose now, and that it like would gross people out that I was having sex with a black guy. And it's so strange because like this pussy's still tight, y'all.
It
Like
is.
that
It
didn't
is.
didn't
See now that is racist. And that's racist not on you, Layla. But, like it's racist to think like, oh, if you have sex with a black guy, your pussy's gonna get loose.
right. It's stupid. It's so stupid. Like I get so annoyed at this body count thing because I love the way that you expressed it too, Brian, is that creator had 80 experiences of exploration. And that's something that's amazing and she's proud of, and that's super cool. So I'd like to ask you, Brian, if there were two women that were presented to you, one had a body count of 2 people and the other one had a body count of 200. Would that make you feel any type of way? Would you pick one over the other?
Are you asking me today or are you asking me my past self?
Ooh, both.
My past self would absolutely have an issue with it because I went through that once. And it was, I dated someone and I found out her body count was like in the 40s. And that was the highest like inbound body count I'd experienced from a person.
Mhm.
And it did some tomfoolery in my mind, that's for sure.
Go on.
I Yo, man, we don't have enough time to talk about this right now, man. What can I say about that? I was context matters, right? It was around the
Mhm.
same time that they told me they hadn't been tested in like 4 years.
Mm.
And so I found out the body count at the same time I found out that their approach on STI testing was like, if someone had something, they would have told me. And since no one's told me, I'm probably
Mm.
good. And so I was shocked at the level of like irresponsibility in how they did it, less like the body count itself. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
totally. Okay, well, let's take that off the table because
Yeah.
100% right.
Ha.
Was that the only reason why it gave you a strong reaction? I suspect there's a little bit more in there.
Yeah. My past self was like, oh man, okay. I had a, it was a comparison thing. It was like, not only I wanted to be the best they ever had. And
Mm.
the best was also kind of associated with like size. So I think my mind went to like, okay, how big were all these people? You know? And later I did find out that one of those people was like, she said like dysfunctionally large. Like, there's a dysfunction where it can be like 13, 14 inches, right?
Yeah.
It sounded like that. And like, it was hard for me to get hard for like a week. I remember. It didn't make me feel comfortable.
So it was more
So
so
yeah,
coming from a place of insecurity more so than judgment, or do you think judgment was a factor?
it was coming from the insecurity was like where I went to in comparison, and then there was judgment around like how responsible they were with it or not. Yeah,
Okay.
does that make sense?
Totally. Now, same question as it applies to where you're at now.
Today I wouldn't have an issue with it. at all.
Would you choose one
In
over the
fact,
other?
today I wouldn't even ask.
Well, no, no, no. I don't think you would. But if it
Yeah,
was presented to you, this exact same girl, 2 versus 200, which one would you pick?
that is such a loaded question,
I
because
know. This is gotcha journalism.
the reason why I think that question's loaded is because it's more so the mindset of the person. Like your body count might be 2 because you were in a relationship for like 16 years and that person was controlling and they didn't let you explore. But like you have this wild side and you're an awesome partner. You just had a shit relationship and you're super down. Like, and then the person with 200, they could have approached that stably. They also could have been like completely unstable in how they did that and like, drugged out half the time they were doing it. So it just depends. Like
Yeah.
I get what you're trying to ask though, and I'm kind of playing with scenarios around that. It would come down to who the person is though.
See, and you're right. Like I knew that there was going to be no way that you'd be able to answer that now, and you've proven that with your answer because you genuinely don't care. And I think if maybe there was a tiny part of you that did care, I think you would have answered differently. So I think that this proves that.
Okay, yes. I do care. I just don't care about the count. I care about what drove the count
Got it.
and how they approach the count. Yeah. Cuz I don't what is your count, Layla?
Oh my fucking god. Oh my god.
I'm gonna take a sip of coffee while you do the math. While you do the math. Are you doing addition or algebra though? I'm curious.
Honestly, trigonometry. I you know what's funny is I've thought about it and I actually have literally no, I could guess, but I could be so far off because I don't keep count. I did in the beginning. In the beginning, the first couple parties that I went to, my husband and I would get in the car and I'd be like, "Oh, I had sex with 3 people." And he'd be like, "Oh, I had sex with 4." And he'd be like, "Oh, cool," and then after that I just kind of stopped counting. I mean, if I had to really, God, if I had to guess, maybe maybe 40 to 50.
Really?
Yeah, because I mean, you know me. I don't really, I mean, especially the last couple of years, I am a lot more selective. And half the time I go to parties, I don't even play. I just hang out. I don't
Is
know.
there a way to
Maybe it's more. I don't know. What
is
would
there
wait? I should have asked you what you would have guessed.
I assume everyone as is at around 100. So like give or take a few for some people, but I would assume everyone's at about 100. I asked someone once, I'm not going to say who this is, but I did ask someone once what they thought their number was, and they assumed it was in like 1,000.
Was this a guy or a girl?
It was a guy, and he did some algebra out loud. He was like, "Okay, I've been in the space for this many years. If I go to this many parties, like he like worked it out. He's like
Mhm.
that gets up to about it. He's probably 1,000. I don't think he's that high, but that was the number he threw out there. So one thing Layla and I have been talking about is like we're and thank you for all the support because like our audience is growing. We're getting a lot more shares on our clips. Some of you have been reaching out one on one in DMs for advice on certain topics, which has been really awesome. One thing we've talked about is doing polls to understand answers to questions like this. Um, and I wonder if there's a way to do an anonymous poll on body count because
Mhm.
for lack of a better word, body count to see where people are because I am curious.
I'm curious too. And also, I'm curious. I mean, I imagine lifestyle people are going to have a much higher body count. Um, but also people in the lifestyle body count doesn't doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And like I think I have gotten so much better at sex because I've had lots of different experiences, which has allowed me to try different positions. Or, like I didn't even know I could squirt until I joined this lifestyle. I
Hmm.
had never, yeah, like there's lots of things I had never tried before entering this lifestyle. So I think because I have more experience, I think I'm a lot better in bed. So if anything, I think my higher than average body count should make anybody happy because
Yeah.
I'm gonna nail it.
Yeah. Get nailed and nail it. Yeah, I know. So, um, okay, so let's let's figure we're gonna try to do a poll. This will be our first anonymous poll if we can pull it
Yeah,
off. And let's
yeah,
just see what people say. And we will share the results. Again, my guess is I might be overestimating though. My guess is 100, but we'll see. Before we wrap this episode up, Layla, I just want to say you mentioned that like you used to know and count, and you would know how many your partner did and how many you did that night. And I
mhm,
just want to encourage people not to take score like that. It sounds like you used to do it and you evolved past that.
yeah,
And one way to cause a lot of issues in your relationship is to keep score on this stuff, and we would encourage you not to do that at all.
yeah.
Um, because it'll be higher for one, sometimes higher for the other. I think it all washes out. But if you start taking score and you feel like one of you has to catch up or like make up for it, it's just not going to work.
Yeah, it's not a healthy approach to lifestyle, especially if it's not in a way that's kind of fun, like my husband and I, where it's like, oh, you did this, oh, I did this, high five. I mean, we know plenty of people that, one may get jealous over the other if they played with more that night, and it can cause some division. So I encourage you to not do that. And also I think it's important that we talk about things like this, right? And we ask advice with each other. And we have such an amazing support group and a big network of people that are in this space. And like what you're going through, Brian, with you and your wife possibly dating another person, for you to come on and ask my advice, which I didn't give great advice because I don't know, but I this is awesome. This is important. These types of conversations are important because, like you said, there's not necessarily a guideline on how to do all these things because we've been put in these boxes our whole life with society in regard to relationships, and we have an opportunity to get out of that box and create something entirely different that hasn't been done before, you
Right.
know?
Right. Completely. So then let's leave them with that. I love that you said that, Layla. That should be a clip. Um, and if we were to like while we're going through this and in the question about it, if we were to leave people with tips, like if you're thinking about or considering bringing in a common partner into your relationship, here's a few things we would do. One
Mhm,
thing I would say is open up to friends in the space about it, because I think that's what I'm doing on this call with you, is
mhm,
talking to you about it, getting your support, your feedback. You're not telling me what to do, and you're not making me right or wrong for it, but just having sounding boards as you're going through this on things to consider, I think would be helpful. So that's I would say that's number one.
mhm.
Is like find some external support, some people who have been through similar.
And on
What
that
would you
note,
say?
yeah, no, on that note, I also think that it would be valuable for you to sit down and write out what you imagine this situation looking like to where it would feel best to you. And I encourage your wife to do the same thing. And I encourage this potential girlfriend to do the same thing. And when you all come together in your discussion, I think you should each talk about it and see where everybody's coming from. So there's no confusion in the future of, oh, well, we all knew what this was. And I thought we were all on the same page in what we wanted, because it could look entirely different. And there's a big possibility that none of it really aligns. And then that's your answer. It's not going to be healthy with where you guys are at currently.
That is a good point. It is like figuring out the vision that everybody has and seeing how to align that. All right. So we're
Right.
gonna make that number two. So get some support, get clear on your visions, and then have a conversation to see if those all align.
Mhm.
If I had a third one, I would say have fun with it. Like I feel I can even feel us treating this like this big thing, and we got to figure this out, or we're gonna like break everyone's hearts in this. You made such a good point a couple minutes ago where you were saying that like you have become so much better as a lover or as a partner because you've been able to experience so much more.
Mhm.
And so if this is our first time doing this, it's not us saying like that means this gets to be what we want and he needs to go find this thing. It's just another opportunity for us to try something and see what we learn from it and how we grow from it and just know that we will be better people 6 months from now because we opened this door and saw what was there.
Yeah, absolutely. I guarantee you, you and your wife are going to learn so much about not just this potential poly kind of life, but I think you guys are going to learn a lot about each other. And I imagine that it's going to make your relationship stronger. But I also imagine it's going to cause some possible controversy amongst each other and possible arguments, possible jealousies. A lot can happen, but that's also where I personally have experienced the most growth within my relationship is through polyamory. So if you're willing to do the work, then I think you're right, Brian. Enjoy it, have fun. And if it ends up not being for you, you can end it at any time in a graceful manner.
Yeah, I can. Layla, I love you.
I love
This has been
you.
great. I'm still not poly.
Yes, you are.
See, and this I knew that was happening. I knew that under Layla's been trying to convince me I'm poly for like years.
You have a
And
little
now
poly
it's
heart.
closer than ever. It's closer just because I listen to people. It's just
No, I think you love deeply, and I think you have the capacity to love deeply to multiple people. There's nothing wrong with that. If anything, that's a
that
compliment.
thank you, Layla. That's a
Because
conversation for
the way that you show love is so wonderful, and I think that not everybody has that capability, and I think that you do. So take it as a compliment. Whether you act in a polyamorous life, that's up to you. But I think you have the capability, so you're welcome.
thank you, Layla. Thank you. Thank you. And let's end it there. All right. If you're seeing this video, the poll is up. So like go
Yeah.
go on and find the poll because we want to see what you think. That's all for today. We're gonna have some live episodes in person coming soon and some fun announcements for you as we get towards the end of the year. And until we see you next time, thanks for tuning in. Thanks for all the support. And between now and the next time we see you, try something or try someone new.
Uh,